Hello, my awesome internet friends, and I have come here today to tell you a story. And I know this is probably one of the videos that will sit on my channel with not many views, and that's okay. I still want to tell you this story because I know this is a story that won't live after me. No one's going to remember it. It's not a fantastic story. It's not a story of any kind of great triumph. It's probably not even a story that anyone else will remember. Not even the couple of people who've heard it a couple of times. So this shirt, which says Finish the Fight 2014, it's a Relay for Life shirt. And why am I wearing a white t-shirt is probably what a lot of you are wondering. Because, well, frankly, I own exactly one white t-shirt, and this is it. And the reason that I have this shirt is because just once I participated in Relay for Life. Now, it's not that I don't care about the cancer fight. In fact, I've donated to Relay for Life plenty of times. I don't hold it against cancer that my mother had it. My mother was not a good person. I won't get into details here. There's no reason to disparage the dead. But I will say this. There are reasons, for those of you who know me, that I am the maladjusted person I am today. And many of those reasons start with her. So, but Relay for Life was something that the Rocky Horror Picture Show cast that I was part of for a long time. It was called Help Me Mommy, and it was held in Hobart, Indiana. And it was fun during the time that, during the majority of the time that I was with it. I was part of it at 2 separate times, and the second time that I was part of it, I rejoined it when I was married. I was a Trixie, who is the girl who dances at the beginning. It doesn't have to be a girl. The person who dances during the opening song. Sometimes they have someone who's dressed up as an usherette or a cigarette girl. And some casts, like ours, allow people to just do various types of costuming. And then I was also, I was part of our security team. Now, the first time I had joined in 2010, I was on tech crew, but I suffered a weird injury to my hand that made it kind of hard to do some of the table passes. By a table pass, if you've never been in theater, you have to kind of hike a table up in the air and then be able to pass it. You also, if you have only joined me in my CRPS journey, it's important to note that I didn't have a CRPS journey until 2016. So when I rejoined Rocky Horror Picture Show in the late fall, early winter of 2013, I was, fully mobile. And when I say fully mobile, I don't just mean I could walk around fine. I mean, I could dance. I could literally run circles around the theater. In fact, I occasionally did run circles around the theater. So yeah, I was good to go. And they held a competition. And that competition was to fill what we called a cast officer. Some places would call it a cast leader. Basically, there were depending on what year it was, and depending on this might vary from one place to another, between 2 and 5 on average. There was usually an odd number, so 3 or 5 cast leaders, people who were in charge of the group. So when I say in charge of, I mean like big decisions to be made. If somebody got into a large amount of trouble, these were the people who dealt with it. I don't just mean like people not showing up to rehearsal. I mean if somebody broke a large rule that, could mean getting thrown out of the cast. Also people being upgraded from like probationary to like fully members. If you've ever been in a theater group, you kind of come in and you're reviewed. So anyway, they needed a third one. And so somehow they decided what would be really smart would be to hold essentially the Hunger Games of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And all of us who wanted to compete to be a leader were going to get a task that suited us. Or if there wasn't a task that suited, some random task that we could focus on. So what do I mean by this? I'm sure that everybody who knows me knows that they immediately made me the secretary. Because I already took notes at the meetings. And there was a guy there who already took care of like the treasurer stuff. So he was the treasurer. And then there was a guy there who he was like already doing a lot with the no, he wasn't okay. We ended up with like treasurer, secretary, cleanup captain. The very first cleanup captain quit on assignment of it. He was offended by being deemed the cleanup captain because basically that meant dealing with garbage. So he just passed. He said no, and that ended up somebody else for a while, and then eventually it was me. In addition to my secretary role, because I thought, hey, let me just take on everything. It is how A, I learned to use a leaf blower, and B, how I almost got my dress eaten by a leaf blower later. There was like a casting director, there was a bunch of us. Anyway, and during this time period, we had to do as many things as we could in order to prove that we were dedicated to the cast, that we were willing to think of solutions, to show our dedication, to work well with others, and even to work well with these people that we were essentially competing against. Okay, here's why that matters. The guy who was running for treasurer was always in charge of our teams, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show at that location's teams, Relay for Life group. Now, everybody knew two things about me. One, the kitty does not camp, does not stay out all night in something grass related, because Relay for Life, if you're not familiar, if you do the big night, you stay out pretty much all night, you walk the track, you hang out in a tent, you have like this whole thing, right? So like the kitty doesn't do that. So that was the number one thing everybody would have already known, because they had heard me every year say, that's an awesome idea, let me put it in the newsletter for you. Let me not have anything to do with it other than that. And then two, I often was the one who walked around and collected donations for Relay for Life during, the show. But again, care deeply, but doesn't want to show up. Two, the town that it was in, Hobart, Indiana, completely unfamiliar. Didn't know how to get there beyond, I knew how to drive to the theater. That was it. So trying to find the high school or wherever it was being held, or the park or whatever, nah. And was I willing to figure that out? Did I want to have anything to do with that? And everybody knew that, right? So, like, it's not that I'm not a team player. It's that there are certain parts. It's just, like, the person who, like, they don't want to be sent to one area of the outfield. I was, that part, it was just like, if you had told me, oh, we're gonna do the parade. Yay, parade! I will hand out flyers for you. I am not walking the parade, though. But that was for health concerns, because allergic to the sun. These were not health concerns that stopped me from being able to be involved with Relay for Life. So, this guy who was doing it, we're going to call him Steve, because most guys named Steve are skeezy. Pardon any good Steves in the world, okay? My experience with most Steves are bad. So Steve, the treasurer, he's like, yeah, we're going to have a good team. We're going to do this. And I was like, yep, let me sign up. I will totally work with you, Steve. I will be out there with you. And Steve's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I will stay there all night. I will do all of the things. Steve was surprised. The other cast officers were surprised. Everyone was surprised because the kitty doesn't do that. But see, the kitty wanted to win. So I sign up. I make sure I get a shirt that's big enough that I could put another shirt under it if I needed to, because, well, it was still kind of chilly at night at this time of the year, which I don't know what time of the year that was. And there I go. I drive into, like, I had worked all day because this was on a Friday. So I had worked, and then I drive out to this place in Hobart, Indiana, and parked the car. I got lost. I had to call a couple of people. Like, how do I get there? I'm where the GPS sent me, but I'm not there. Please help. And then, like, so I'm wearing, like, appropriate footwear for the walking, wearing, like, some jeans, this shirt. I got, like, a sweater and all that, right? I got plenty of drinks. And by drinks, I mean non-alcoholic. Things to hydrate me and things to keep me awake. So, all right. So they have people with Relay for Life. They have people come out and walk for different things. So, like, there's the cancer survivors. There's the people with cancer. And then, like, there's the people who've lost people to cancer. So, much as my mom was I go out there and I do my walk around the thing because I lost my mom to cancer. My grandmother had cancer 3 times. Okay? Now, keep in mind, in the 80s, they didn't always hack off both boobies if somebody had breast cancer. So my grandmother had breast cancer on one side. They hacked off that boobie. She was fine. They gave her, like, the little thing you put in the bra. She got breast cancer again. Other side. They hacked off that boobie. I don't actually think she even had to do chemo. I think she had to do a little radiation. Then, in the 2000s, she got cancer in her mouth. They took off part of her tongue. She was still able to eat and drink. Yep. She died from complications of a fall. That at age like 94. She outlived all her kids and one of her grandkids. So, like, yeah. But she didn't die of cancer. So anyway, just my mom. So, and at the time my dad was still alive. So, like, okay, cool. He didn't die of cancer either. It was a heart thing. But anyway, so I did the lab. Okay. So then, eventually all the ceremony of it is over. And then it's just people chilling out. There's a place you can buy some food, drinks. They hand out some stuff, I think. And then, like, you're just supposed to, like, you're supposed to have somebody from your team walk intermittently. So I asked Steve, how much are you going to walk tonight? So, like, Steve had some physical issues. And I could run circles around the theater, but I had arthritis in both my knees already at that point. And that has no bearing on the fact that I have CRPS now. One of my knees I had, like, hurt playing basketball. Yes, basketball. When I was in my young 20s. Not like in an organized sports kind of way, but in I was dating this human, gender confusion regarding what the gender was when I was dating said person versus what gender is now. So I'm just going to say human. I was dating this human, and their younger brother liked to occasionally have a pickup game. And so I had been playing basketball with the younger brother, injured my knee, ended up with some arthritis from that. Had some congenital arthritis stuff going on. So, like, I could run around, but there was a limit to how long I could run around without some pain. So I was like, I just have to walk at least as much as Steve. So Steve tells me, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 miles he was walking that night. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk as much as you walk. So he told me how many times around the track equaled that much. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So, like, I had specifically worn trainers. AKA sneakers, AKA gym shoes, whatever you call them. And I walked in them. They may have been Chuck Taylors. I'm not 100% sure anymore. Anyway, so, like, some of the times him and I walked together. A couple of the times I walked by myself. Like, we had a very small turnout from our Rocky group. Like, several people came for the beginning, for the ceremony part, because someone else from our group, for sake of anonymity, because I don't have anybody's permission to talk about their shit, I'm going to call that person Amy. Amy had lost, I'm not sure if both parents, but at least one to cancer. So, like, and like, it was the parent that had raised Amy. So, at least I think I know it was, like, an important parent. So, like, Amy was very, very passionate about being part of Relay for Life. So, several others had come out. I did a couple laps with them. And then as people kind of petered out and left, I stuck around. So this goes on over the course of the whole last night. Okay? And then the sunrise. And then it's just me and Steve. And it's time to put away the tent. Now, me now knows how to put away a tent because I've had to deal with tents for shows, for art shows. Me then, who was a English professor, had never camped even once, had never been part of an art show even once, and the closest I had ever come to using a tent was when I was a little bitty, tiny human. I was I had been given like a playhouse kind of thing that looked like a house, but was technically a tent. It was meant to be used for backyard camping. I wasn't allowed to take it outside though. I had to use it in the living room. So that didn't get put down like a regular tent. Anyway, Steve teaches me, like, okay, this is what we fold here and there. I took that tent down like a friggin' champ with Steve. And I mean, I helped him take down our whole area, clean our whole area, make sure there was no trash. Now, the only reason I left before Steve was because he was involved in the actual Relay for Life group. And so he had things to do that had nothing to do with our like Rocky subgroup. But I made it the whole night. I did not have to nap. I did not put myself in a position where my stress-induced narcolepsy could kick in, because if there's one thing that I had learned, because I was not yet on medication for that, if I kept myself upright and moving, it could not kick in very well. And because I could fall asleep standing up, but not standing up and moving. And so yeah, like I managed to just keep going. And it, like, I'm not going to say it wasn't a real challenge driving home, because I was not well driving home. I had been up for far too long. I believe I ended up calling my then husband for kind of like, hey, can you keep me up at the very end of it? I'm not 100% sure that I was able to that I talked to him the whole time. I like, my memory of driving home was a little fuzzy, but I got home safely. But my point being, I got through that Relay for Life. I got through the whole night. And that was something that I never would have thought I could do. Not even because of how physically taxing it was, but because of the fact that it was so out of my comfort zone. You also have to understand that, like, until like December of 2014, when I really, so like December of 2014 is when I lost my grandmother, and I really fell apart. My depression got very severe, and I think it might have even been like November of that year is when like we kind of had like the first instance of having to deal with my depression, like more acutely. But for the most part, there was a lot of me just having trouble coping. And I was able to like compartmentalize, cope. I did really well with it. And, you know, obviously part of that was I had a very supportive husband who was able to kind of, you know, give me a good pep talk beforehand and stuff. But like, it, you know, doing Relay for Life was something that meant a lot to me. And when I look back now, because there are so many things that like I'll never be able to do again because of my CRPS. One of the things is something like that. Like I'll never be able to do the Relay for Life overnight thing again. And it's not like I would ever, you know, be doing it for like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm not part of that community anymore. But for any community or just to do it, so I'm very glad that I did it then. And I always say when I wear this shirt, I always say, like, I've never worked so hard to earn a shirt as I worked to earn this one, because that night I pushed myself past my comfort zone and past my limits. And I don't just mean like physical limits, but like emotionally. And it wasn't, part of it was being competitive and wanting to show that, like, I could hang in for as long as Steve did. But a big part of it was also just, proving that because most of our group wasn't there, that, I was going to help. And I was going to take one for the team and help. And so I still have this shirt and I still wear it, and it has a big old stain on it somewhere, so I don't wear it out anywhere. It's an around the house shirt. And I say all this to say a couple of things. One, never turn down an opportunity that you feel like is important, because you never know. You never know if it's going to be the only time you get to do it. By the next year, I was not in an emotional place to do it. And and then the year after that, I already had the CRPS, and it just wasn't an option. So doing it when I had the chance was super important. And then 2, it's not about the competition, but there's nothing wrong with competing with others, with yourself, as a means to push yourself to be your best. Like, in the end, I didn't win. Neither did Steve, by the way. But it doesn't matter. Like, because of that competition, I pushed myself to do better, to be a better me at shows, to try things I hadn't done, including learning a new role, to take on positions I never would have done, like cleanup captain, that I would have admittedly turned my nose up at. And while it didn't end up being good for me, and I did end up handing it off eventually, I learned a lot from it. And I ended up trying to change some of the words that we used for things, because there was a lot of negative words surrounding that. And I tried really hard to change that. So, just, I feel like it's one of those things where I'm glad that I took the opportunity when I did. And this isn't supposed to be sad. I feel like some of this sounds kind of sad. It's not supposed to be sad. This is a triumphant story. Also, please pardon all of the weird noises in the background. Where I am staying right now, there are 2 dogs, and one is in a crate during the day, with plenty of space and food and water and all of the things that a dog needs. And then the other one is on the couch, and they both make a lot of noise. All right. Mad love.